It was a weird kind of Monday. Gray skies, air thick with that damp spring smell, and the kind of quiet that made you feel like something was just off. I was leaning against the customer service counter at IKEA, yawning so hard my jaw cracked, when a kid walked in. Looked maybe 17, 18 tops. He wore a purple hoodie with black joggers and that kind of too perfect middle part in his hair that only boys who spent way too long in the mirror pulled off. His face was sharp, cheekbones that could slice, and the gel made his hair gleam like a showroom light was hitting polished wood. Honestly, the shine made his whole head look unreal, like a mannequin with better posture. I'd been working at IKEA for 3 months, mostly weekdays, and I'd never seen this kid before. He stopped dead center in the living room section, just stood there scanning the place like he was searching for someone or something. I wanted to ask if he needed help, but our manager, Denise, was super strict about the let the customer come to you policy. So I waited, watching him from behind the counter, pretending to be busy organizing return tags. Minutes passed. He didn't move, just stood there, eyes flicking like a deer trying to spot danger. Then he looked straight at me, locked eyes, didn't blink. Can I help you? I called out, voice catching a little. He didn't step closer, just pointed toward the corner of the store and said in a low, oddly calm voice, "There was a red high-back chair here last night. Where is it?" My stomach did a little flip. So, he had been here before? I'd only ever worked day shifts, so it wasn't surprising I hadn't seen him. I cleared my throat and answered, "Oh yeah. We moved the armchairs and chaise lounges to the business place section. You just go straight, take a left, you'll see him." He didn't nod, didn't thank me. Instead, his face twisted like he'd smelled something rotten. "But why'd you move him?" I blinked. "Him?" He frowned deeper, eyes boring into mine. "The chair. Why did you move him? He doesn't like being around stupid people." I froze, unsure what to say. Sorry. We're remodeling. Our manager thought it'd be easier for customers to find the bigger chairs near the workspaces." He didn't say another word, just turned on his heel and stalked toward the business place section. I stared after him, heart racing, chills crawling up the back of my neck. What the hell is wrong with this kid? I muttered to myself, rubbing my arms. I expected him to come back and check out his precious chair, maybe ask for help. But half an hour passed, and I spotted him walking out, silent, hands stuffed into his hoodie pocket. I was helping a woman return a broken table leg, so I couldn't stop him. During my break, I gave in to curiosity and headed to the business place corner. There it was, the same red high-back chair, sitting still, unassuming, just like every other piece of overbuilt IKEA furniture. No weird markings, no personal belongings left behind. Nothing. But something still felt off. So I headed to the security office. Carl, the store's part-time security guy, was laughing at some dumb cat video on his phone when I walked in. "Hey Carl, can I see the footage from earlier today? Around 3? He raised an eyebrow. Yeah, sure. Something happen?" "Just weird vibes," I muttered. He pulled up the video. We watched the boy enter, head straight to the red chair, and then my mouth actually dropped. He hugged it. Like full-on wrapped his arms around the thing, pressing his face into the fabric like he was holding a long-lost lover. "What the hell?" Carl whispered. It got worse. The boy talked to it, smiling, laughing, even making goofy faces like the chair was telling jokes back. At one point, he looked up at the security camera, dead-eyed, and scowled like he could see me watching from the future. I felt cold all over. It wasn't just strange, it was wrong. Like he knew something we didn't. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, stone still, staring into the camera like a warning. The next morning, I made myself a silent promise. If he came back, I'd follow him. Quietly. I had to know what that damn chair meant to him. When I got back from lunch, Carl rushed over, face pale, eyes wide. "He's back, the chair kid." I didn't even grab my jacket. Just turned on my heel and headed straight to the business place section, heart thudding in my chest. The red high-back chair was there, sitting like nothing ever happened, and There he was. Jason, I'd later learn his name, kneeling on the floor right in front of it. I grabbed a mop and started half-heartedly cleaning a shelf nearby, just close enough to hear. He didn't even notice me. He was too deep in whatever strange world he'd built around that chair. His voice was low and cracked, almost like he was talking through tears. I know she said you were gone, but I don't care. They can't see you. But I do. I do, okay? I miss you. I'm saving up, gonna take you home. I won't let you stay here much longer. We had fun, right? That time I hit him with the rock. I paused, fingers tightening around the mop handle. He said you died. But you're not dead. You can't die. I won't let you. I'll fight anyone who says stuff like that about you. Suddenly, I knocked the mop handle against the wooden table behind me. A sharp thud. He whipped around, his eyes bloodshot, wild. For a second, I thought he'd lunge at me, attack me for spying. My stomach flipped and I pretended to be checking a price tag. Sorry, I muttered, not making eye contact, and hurried away. I didn't hear the rest of what he said, but when he finally left the store, he turned around at the door and shot me a look, cold, sharp, like a warning. I couldn't shake it. What was he talking about? Did he think that chair was his dad? The thought haunted me. I couldn't focus. Eventually, I made up my mind. I had to know more. When I saw him again a few days later, I waited until he left, then followed him from a distance. He walked 2 blocks down, then turned right into a narrow street lined with modest 2-story homes. He stopped in front of one, blue shutters, overgrown garden, and went inside. I hesitated at the gate. This wasn't my business, but I felt like I owed it to him, or maybe to myself. I rang the bell. A woman in her late 40s opened the door. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen like she hadn't slept properly in days. Yes? She asked, voice hoarse. Hi, This is going to sound strange. I work at IKEA. I've seen your son a few times, and I think you should know. Her hand flew to her chest. Jason? Oh God, what did he do? I told her everything. His visits, the chair, the conversations. She didn't interrupt, just listened. And when I finished, she broke down. Through sobs, she explained the rest. His name is Jason, she said. 5 days ago, we lost his father. Heart attack. It happened so fast. We'd just finished dinner. We're watching TV. He was smoking, sitting in that chair, his chair, the red one. He just stopped breathing. She wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her sweater. Jason saw it all. He won't talk to us. He barely eats. The psychiatrist said we had to get rid of the chair. It was making things worse. So we did. And then Jason, he started looking for it, or something close to it. I think he believes his father's still in it. I finally understood. The chair, the hugging, the words. Jason wasn't crazy. He was drowning in grief, and the only lifeline he could find was a piece of furniture that reminded him of the last time his dad was alive. After that, Jason came back to the store twice. I never said a word. Just let him sit with the chair, as long as he needed. Quiet moments. Sometimes he smiled, sometimes he didn't, but the story didn't end there. I was out sick for a week. When I returned, the store was buzzing, but not in the usual way. Denise called me into her office, her face stony. He came back, she said. Jason, he brought a gun. My legs gave out beneath me. I sank into a chair as she continued. He sat down in the red chair and then shot himself right there. I couldn't speak, no one could. The police came, the medics. The manager made the call to burn the chair, said no one should ever sit in it again. I still work at that store. Every once in a while I visit Jason's mom. She's alone now. I bring flowers, sometimes groceries. She doesn't talk much, but I can tell she's grateful for the company. I think about Jason a lot. I hope, wherever he is, he finally found peace, maybe even his dad. Maybe now when he talks, someone's finally there to listen. Ever heard of the SCP Foundation? You know, that creepy online universe where secret agents lock up monsters, aliens, and all kinds of weird crap? Yeah, I used to think it was just some Reddit-fueled rabbit hole, until that one Friday afternoon inside an IKEA changed everything. I can't say for sure it's all real, but after what I lived through, I'd be a damn fool to brush it off as just internet fiction. It happened years ago. I must have been 8, maybe 9. Back then, I didn't know jack about conspiracy, theories, or monster lore. I was just a bored kid tagging along with my folks on another one of those endless furniture hunts. That day, they were on a mission for a couch. I was dragging my feet behind them, zoning out under those weird white lights when something odd caught my eye. There was this hallway, an aisle technically, but it stretched way too far. Like, impossibly far. Rows of neatly staged living rooms, and chairs framed the path, but nobody else was around. Not a customer, not a staffer, just silence and a creepy sense of pull. I wandered in, drawn forward like I was in a dream. The entrance started fading behind me, and still the aisle kept going. "Ace," a voice barked behind me. "What do you think you're doing?" I flinched. It was my mom, hands on hips, eyes full of that mix of fear and fury she saved for moments like this. I'm sorry," I muttered, looking down at my sneakers. "What did I tell you about sneaking off? You want to get snatched by some creep? Or worse, one of those monsters you keep watching on YouTube?" I swallowed hard. "No, Mom." She sighed and grabbed my hand. "Stay with me. Enough of this nonsense." She turned, pulling me along toward where we'd left Dad, but my curiosity wouldn't let go. Something inside whispered that I had to know what was at the end of that hallway. As we walked, I slowed my pace. Inch by inch, I let her get ahead until her grip slipped from my hand. Then I turned and bolted. My sneakers squeaked on the polished floor as I ran, breath hitching with every step. I pushed deeper into the aisle, further, from safety. After a while, I stopped to catch my breath, expecting to hear my mother's footsteps closing in. But silence. I turned around. No Mom, no Dad, no entrance. Just rows and rows of staged kitchens, beds, lamps, all empty. I called out nothing, not a sound. I kept moving, half walking, half running, my nerves ratcheting up with every passing second. My throat was dry. My palms were slick. This was IKEA. Bright lights, safe space, right? But my gut twisted like I was being hunted. Just when the tears were about to spill, I saw someone. An employee, I thought. Yellow shirt, blue vest, just standing there with his back to me, staring at a toaster display like he was frozen. "Sir?" I called. "I think I'm lost." He turned. He had no face. I gasped and stumbled back. He started walking toward me, slow, steady, calm. But he didn't stop. I ran. I don't even remember making the decision. I just ran. I dodged through showrooms, past staged bedrooms, around fake plants and dining sets. I'd glance back now, and then, thinking I'd lost him only to see him, still walking, always closer. My lungs burned. My legs were jelly. Eventually, I collapsed on a fake shag rug, heart pounding so loud it drowned out the world. He stood over me, motionless, watching. Then I heard a voice beside me. "He won't hurt you?" "Not yet. It's still daytime." I turned. A boy, maybe a few years older than me, crouched nearby. Messy hair, dark circles under his eyes. Clothes, wrinkled like he'd been wearing them for weeks. Who are you?" I asked. "Just like you," he said. "Lost." I stared at him, heart racing. "This place, it's not really IKEA," he continued, eyes scanning the shadows. "It's something else. I've been trying to find the exit for months. I think it's close. I can feel it." "Are there more of us?" I asked. "Yeah," he nodded. "Plenty. Come on, stick with me. We move before night falls." I don't want to be here," I sobbed, backing up. "I want my mom and dad, please. I want to go home." The boy who'd helped me earlier looked at me, his face unreadable. "They're not here, kid," he said softly. "Not anymore. Come with me or you'll die." Before I could respond, the overhead speakers crackled to life, distorted and unnerving. Attention shoppers. We ask all remaining customers to proceed to the cashier area. Our business hours are now closed. The boy froze, his eyes widened. That's not good, he muttered. I have to go, I'm sorry, kid, you would have been a burden anyway. He turned to run, left me standing there alone. Sir? A raspy voice croaked behind me. This area is for employees only. I'm going to ask you to leave. I spun around and nearly choked on a scream. Another IKEA worker, or whatever it was. It looked just like the faceless one from before, but this one moved with a jerky, unnatural speed. And even without a mouth, its words somehow slithered into my ears. Dry, hollow, angry. I stammered, What are you talking about? The teen turned back and snarled, You idiot, you led them here. Without warning, he launched himself at the thing. A flash of movement, a twitch of its hand, and there was a sickening crack. The boy crumpled to the ground like a puppet, with its strings cut. Dead. I couldn't even process it. Two more of them appeared behind the first, all identical, all faceless. Sir, one of them said in that unholy voice, customer service hours are over. Please accompany us to the exit, but this time, they weren't walking. They were running. Fast. Their faces, if you could call them that, twitched and melted like hot wax, reshaping with every stride. Their hands were pale and pulsing, their fingers long and veined like tree roots twisted into fists. I didn't wait. I turned and sprinted. The showrooms blurred around me. Tables, lamps, fake plants. None of it made sense anymore. Every twist and turn was a dead end. I could hear them, shuffling, pounding footsteps right behind me, too close. I didn't know where I was or where I was going. I dove behind an oven in a fake kitchen and held my breath. Footsteps. 3. No. 2. I peeked out, heart pounding like a drum. 2 figures stalked off into the distance, scanning the displays. Where was the third? Sir, a voice hissed behind me. By being here, you are violating workplace protocols. This area is forbidden. I turned, too late. He was there, inches away, hand raised. Pain burst across my side as he slammed me into the floor. My body screamed. He wasn't done. I saw him crouch, muscles tightening, about to strike again. I whimpered, Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. Then I saw it. A door. Hidden behind a fake wall of appliances, just barely ajar. Using everything I had left, I scrambled toward it, shoved it open, and fell through. Suddenly I was outside. Real air. Real sky. Cars, people, cops. Hey, someone shouted. Over here, we found him. Arms grabbed me, not cold and veined, but warm, human. Police officers pulled me up, and a moment later, my parents were there, sprinting toward me, crying, yelling, hugging me so tight it hurt, but I don't remember much after that. Just blackness. Next thing I knew, I was in a hospital bed with a broken arm. I didn't speak about that day for years. I couldn't. I didn't research it, didn't read about it, didn't even go near an IKEA. But eventually I got curious. I dug around online. That's when I founded SCP-3008, a place like mine. A seemingly endless IKEA with roaming staff that aren't human. A foundation that tracks anomalies like that. Fiction, they said, but it wasn't fiction to me. Now, I don't care if anyone believes me. I don't care if they laugh or roll their eyes. I know what happened. I lived it, and I will never set foot in an IKEA again. I've always liked social media. At first I used a fake name, Jackson Flair, just to keep things low-key. But a few years in, once I built a bit of a following, it felt weird hiding behind that alias. So I switched to my real name, Adrian Torres. Felt more honest, more me. Lately this trend had gone viral. People were sneaking into big stores overnight, filming the experience and posting it to YouTube. I figured, why not try it myself? Bad idea. Seriously, don't. I picked IKEA, mostly for its size and because someone on Reddit said their local one didn't have security cameras in every section. Dumb reason, I know, but I convinced myself it would be safer since I was going solo. Or at least that was the plan. I started piecing together a strategy. The idea: hide in a wardrobe until closing. Simple enough. My buddy Jason, my ride or die cameraman, offered to tag along. "Yo, Patreon's gonna eat this up, man. This vid's gonna be sick, viral, no question," he said, tossing a bag of trail mix into the car. "I'm telling you, bro, people love this kind of content." "We're gonna blow the roof off with this one," I replied, strapping down the GoPros and checking the mics. We loaded up the car with snacks, battery packs, a couple blankets, just enough to get through the night. When we pulled into the IKEA parking lot, it was already dark. The big blue and yellow sign glowed against the sky like a beacon, but the air felt off, like it didn't want us there. Jason gave me a weird look as we walked through the sliding doors, but neither of us said anything. Just nerves, we figured. I kept him distracted for a while, pretending to film B-roll while I scoped out the layout. Eventually, we found our spot. The wardrobe section nestled between mock bedrooms and dimly lit fake hallways. I picked the biggest wardrobe and slipped in, Jason quietly closing and latching the door behind us. It smelled like pressed wood and fresh cotton. Tight fit, but it worked. We killed time in the wardrobe, whispering jokes, filming little bits. Jason queued up an audio clip from an old video to make it sound like an employee was approaching. We laughed quietly. It was all fake, of course. Staged. Safe. Then, around 10:30, the overhead lights dimmed. The store was closed. We gave each other this look, half thrill, half "oh shit, we're really doing this," and slowly crawled out of the wardrobe. "Yo, check it out," Jason whispered, aiming the camera. IKEA, midnight. No one's here. Creepy as hell. The place was dead, silent. Not even the hum of a fridge or AC. Just empty showrooms and the sound of our sneakers on polished concrete. We kept the banter going, talking to the camera, trying to keep the energy up. But the longer we walked, the more something started to gnaw at us, little things. A chair ever so slightly swaying. A shadow that didn't quite belong. A sound, faint, like breathing. But from where? What the hell? Jason's voice cracked as he froze. He was staring down one of the long, pitch-black aisles between the kitchen sets. I turned to him. "What?" He pointed, pale as chalk. I swear to God, man, I saw someone, eyes, they were glowing right there watching us. I laughed, nervous but still convinced he was just selling the scene. "Oh man, you didn't tell me we were doing this bit, genius." But he didn't laugh. His mouth was tight. His hand shook slightly on the camera. "I'm not messing around, Adrian." I turned back toward the aisle and stopped cold. 2 pale, glinting eyes floated in the dark like coins in black water. My stomach turned to ice. "Hello?" My voice echoed off display walls. That was all I got out before something moved. A man, no, a thing, lurched out of the darkness and barreled past me. His clothes were filthy, torn, hair clung to his face like wet moss. He screamed, a horrible, fractured sound, and hurled himself at Jason. "Jason!" I shouted, running after him as they crashed to the floor, the man clawing and babbling in some jumbled, guttural language. Jason's scream pierced the silence. I grabbed at the man, yanking at his arms, but his strength was unreal. It wasn't just a prank. We weren't alone. The man vanished into the shadows like smoke. I stood there, my breath ragged, heart slamming in my chest. "Dude, are you okay?" I called out. Jason wheezed. "We gotta get the hell out of here, man, now." Without another word, we bolted. The only thought pounding in my mind was, get out. Get out of the store. Get out of this nightmare. I sprinted ahead, adrenaline pushing, me harder than I'd ever run in my life. Jason was falling behind. I could hear his heavy steps, ragged breathing. He wasn't keeping pace. The exit came into view, the glowing sign over the sliding doors like salvation. I felt this fleeting moment of relief. We'd made it. We were alive. And twisted as it sounds, the footage was going to be legendary. Then I heard it. Thud, followed by a wet grunt. I skidded to a stop and spun around. "Jason!" My eyes locked on him. He was on the ground. And behind him, those eyes again, That man. No, that thing. He was there, looming over Jason like some ancient demon. His filthy clothes hung off him like skin on bones, and in his gnarled hand was a blade, a chef's knife, big, stained, and jagged at the edge. "No!" I screamed. It happened in seconds. The old man gripped Jason by the neck with those long, shaking fingers and drove the knife straight into his chest. A sickening schlunk echoed down the empty aisle. Jason gasped, his eyes flaring wide with pain and confusion. His mouth opened, but nothing came out, just blood. He twitched once, twice, then went still. I couldn't move, I couldn't breathe. I just stood there frozen in some hellish trance. The man lowered himself over Jason's body. His cracked lips curled into a grin as he bent low, laughing, this awful, wheezing cackle that echoed around the showroom walls. He cupped Jason's head like a toy, eyes filled with a starvation that wasn't just hunger. It was desperation. Need. He drew the knife from Jason's chest, the blade now slick and dripping. Then, without hesitation, he dragged his tongue along the edge. I saw it cut him. Blood mingled with blood, running down his chin as he moaned and laughed all at once, as if he'd tasted salvation. That's when I snapped. My body finally listened, to my brain. I turned and ran, screaming, my voice tearing through the dead silence of the store. I didn't stop, not even at the exit. I just pushed through those doors and kept running into the parking lot yelling for help. I'll never forget what I saw back there. Jason lying cold and still with that monster hunched over him like some feral beast. His hands soaked in my friend's blood, his tongue cut and smiling. I called the police the second I caught my breath. They were fast. Too fast, I thought, almost like they'd had a call like this before. Turns out the man had been living in the store for weeks. A homeless drifter who found shelter inside IKEA's endless maze of furniture and forgotten corners. Maybe he'd snapped, or maybe he'd been broken long before. That night, it wrecked me. I still hear Jason's voice sometimes when I close my eyes. I still see the light leave his eyes, but I'd be lying if I said the story didn't catch fire. The video hit 1 million views within days. News stations picked it up. Comments poured in. Horror, sympathy, obsession. My inbox overflowed with interviews, collabs, even sponsorship offers. So yeah, I guess there's always a silver lining even in tragedy. But if you take anything from this, take this. Don't mess with overnight challenges. Not all stores close alone. Last summer, I decided to visit my parents up in northern Arizona. Truth is, I don't really fit in with the rest of my family. It's been years since I've seen them. Growing up, my folks were always closer to my brothers than to me. They were all short, stocky, and super into sports. Me, tall, skinny, kind of a nerd. Not exactly the family favorite. Still their family, so I figured I owed them a visit. The closest airport was in Vegas, so I planned to rent a car and drive the 2 hours up to my parents' place. Then Aunt Nancy caught wind I was coming and offered to pick me up. I said, sure. Didn't want to rent a car anyway. It was weirdly kind of her considering Aunt Nancy's never been all that fond of me. She met me at baggage claim looking as sharp and annoyed as ever. As we drove out of the city, I expected her to head south straight to Arizona, but instead she turned the other way. Wait, what are you doing? Shouldn't we be heading to my folks? I asked. She just shrugged. I gotta swing by IKEA first. No IKEAs where I live, so I hit the one in Vegas whenever I can. I didn't want to argue. It was her doing me a favor. When we got inside, I asked, so what are you shopping for? Nothing really, she said, nonchalant. Just browsing. I sighed. Browsing meant one thing. Hours of wandering around that giant maze. If you've never been inside IKEA, imagine endless aisles, no clear exits, and feeling like you're trapped in some weird fluorescent-lit labyrinth. We drifted from dishes to towels to clothes, and back to dishes. I was already bored out of my mind when Aunt Nancy suddenly froze. She grabbed my arm, squeezing tight. I followed her gaze and saw a guy casually browsing washcloths. Totally normal looking, tall, nerdy, middle-aged. But Aunt Nancy's eyes were sharp, her voice low and urgent. "Come with me. Now." She pulled me behind a pillar. Peeking out, I saw the man still standing there oblivious. I asked, "Who is he?" "I don't know," she whispered, "but he's dangerous. Strung out on something bad or worse, there's something off." I looked again. He seemed fine, just comparing two washcloths. "Come on, Nancy, you're overreacting," I said, starting to move away. Suddenly, she yanked me back by the collar, her grip fierce. "No. She'd kill you." For a second, I thought, she was messing with me. My family loved to gang up on me, tease me, and act like I was the black sheep. But this time, her face was stone-cold serious. She grabbed my arm and started pulling me fast through the store. I had to practically run to keep up. The guy had noticed and was yelling behind us, "Hey, wait!" I didn't look back, but I could hear him behind us, his footsteps pounding, getting louder. We rounded a corner and I felt my heart slam against my ribs. Aunt Nancy was right. Maybe this guy was dangerous. The closer he got, the harder it was to breathe. We passed the cashiers, who just stared at us like we'd lost our minds. We were almost at the exit when suddenly, two rough hands grabbed my shoulders and yanked me backward. Aunt Nancy screamed, "Let him go." The man spun me around and locked eyes with me. His face was slick with sweat, breathing heavy, but he didn't look high. He whispered, "Son." That's when it hit me. He looked just like me. Same eyes, same messy dark hair, same lanky frame. My throat went dry. Then he turned to my aunt and muttered, "Nancy, I finally found you." Nancy tried to pull me away, panic twisting her voice, but I wouldn't let her. I needed answers. "Who are you?" I demanded. He took a breath, voice trembling but steady. "I'm your real father. You were stolen from me when you were too young to remember." My mind reeled. He named my mom, Lois, and my dad, Larry, but said they weren't my real parents. By then, Nancy was screaming at the top of her lungs, "Help! Someone help me!" She wasn't carrying a gun. This was her desperate way of scaring off my real father. Now, everything clicked. Why my family never quite fit. Why I always felt out of place. Two security guards showed up, eyes narrowing at my aunt's wild shouting. They escorted her out, but she fought them every step. Now alone with the man, he started telling me more. How he met my mother back east in South Carolina. How she disappeared with me in the middle of the night. He never stopped looking for me, and somehow by some crazy twist of fate, we ran into each other at the same IKEA in Vegas. That was last summer. Since then, I haven't seen my fake parents or fake Aunt Nancy. I went with my real dad, Jimmy, to his Airbnb. He was on vacation from South Carolina, and I stayed with him the whole time. We've been in close contact ever since. I still can't believe this all happened. But honestly, I'm grateful it did. And all because Aunt Nancy wanted to do a little browsing at IKEA. I woke up feeling like I'd been run over by a truck, hungover as hell after a wild night out with the girls. I needed coffee and carbs, badly. So I shuffled out of my apartment and made my way a few blocks down to the Dunkin' near campus. Living near the college meant places like this were always packed with students and late-night wanderers. I called out to my roommate Tracy from the couch. "Hey, you want to come? I'm grabbing coffee and donuts." No answer. She was probably still passed out, or pissed at me, which was a safe bet. I could almost hear the silence between us. She was still mad about me making out with Martin, that blonde guy she'd been obsessed with. God, she made it impossible sometimes. Always, loudly announcing who she was into, then turning into a total storm if someone got in her way. A couple days of sulking, then she'd move on to the next. I loved Tracy, but honestly, I was done dealing with her drama. And Martin? Ugh, worst kisser ever. Way too much tongue, and he wouldn't shut up about his ex. After one too many rolls, I ghosted him. But apparently Tracy saw us together and went full jealous mode. Might have even snapped some photos. I didn't care. Whatever. I stepped inside Dunkin', gave the girl at the counter a nod, and ordered 2 apple fritters. If Tracy woke up and apologized, I'd give her one. If not, I was eating both. The girl seemed nice at first, but as I handed over the cash, her smile twisted. She glanced at me with this weird cold stare and pulled out her phone, scrolling like she was looking for something. "Thanks," I said, turning to leave, but she stopped me. "Wait, I've got some day-old donuts I can give you. Free, of course." I laughed, figuring free donuts were free donuts. "Sure, why not?" She disappeared into the back and came out with a full bag. "Thanks," I said, stepping outside, but as I walked to the parking lot, this weird feeling crawled up my spine. I glanced back through the window and caught her staring, grinning like a damn psychopath. What the hell? I reached into the bag, my hand brushing something wet and furry. I screamed and dropped it. It wasn't donuts. It was a dead rat, crushed and bloody. I nearly puked right there. Fury flared through me as I stormed back inside. She was behind the counter, laughing. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I shouted. She sneered. "You stole my man." I blinked. "What?" She pointed, eyes wild. "You're the rat." I shook my head. "I don't know what you're talking about." But she kept yelling, calling me a rat over and over. I should have called the cops right then, had the disgusting bag as proof, but something in me just snapped. I wasn't going to back down. She pulled out her phone, scrolled, then shoved a photo at me. It was me kissing Martin last night. No surprise, it was from Tracy's Instagram. Caption: "My roommate." Martin wasn't just some random dude. He was Tracy's ex. And all this crazy? It was because of her. I wanted to scream. Not at the girl behind the counter, but at Tracy. I turned to leave. But before I could step away, the girl jumped over the counter, lunging toward me. And suddenly, I knew this night wasn't over. I was still pounding with that awful hangover, barely able to keep my legs steady, let alone fight. So when she stepped in front of the door and blocked me, I just froze. She grabbed my shoulders hard enough to bruise, holding me like I was some damn enemy. My heart slammed in my chest. "Please," I whispered, voice shaking. "I don't even know Martin." Her eyes burned into mine. "But you know his name," she hissed, hot breath fogging my face. She was so close I could feel the heat pouring off her skin. "I didn't do anything," I said, trying to stay calm. "Martin is mine," she screamed, the words ripping through the air like a jagged knife. Something snapped. I shoved her hard, breaking free, and bolted out the door like my life depended on it. Because honestly, it did. But she wasn't done. She charged after me, wild-eyed and furious like I was the worst thing she'd ever seen. I've never seen rage like that before, pure, uncontrollable, terrifying. If she'd given me a dead rat before, what else was she capable of? When she lunged, I dodged to the side at the last second. Her momentum was so strong she couldn't stop herself. She stumbled and crashed head first onto the pavement. The thud echoed in my ears, cold and final. I looked down. She was out cold. I didn't even hesitate. I dropped the rat-filled bag beside her like a sick trophy and walked away. Once I was far enough, I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. I told them everything. About the rat, the girl, the whole insane night. While I waited for the cops, I wiped my hands, tried to eat one of the apple fritters that weren't covered in rat guts, but my stomach just clenched. No way. When the police showed up, I gave my statement, and they took her away. They grabbed that disgusting bag for evidence. I went home, packed my stuff quietly, and moved out before Tracy even woke up. Didn't leave a note or say a word. I never spoke to Tracy again. Maybe she didn't mean for any of it to happen, but her jealousy had dragged me into the grossest, most terrifying nightmare I'd ever lived, and now, donuts? Forget it. Just the thought still makes my skin crawl. It was a clear Saturday morning, the kind where the sun feels warm and inviting, and Mark and I decided to take a trip to our local IKEA. We needed new furniture for the guest room, Something comfortable, functional, maybe a bed, a dresser, and a nightstand that matched. Honestly, we were both kind of excited the way people get when they hope to snag a good deal or find something unexpected. As we wandered through the sprawling, maze-like aisles, I started noticing something odd. The store felt silent, not the usual buzz of chatter, footsteps, and background music. Despite the countless displays and fully stocked shelves, there were hardly any other customers around. It was almost like the entire store was ours alone. I nudged Mark, whispering, "Isn't it weird how quiet it is?" He shrugged. Maybe it's just early, or slow today. We didn't exactly find what we'd come for. No perfect bed, no dresser that felt right. Nothing that clicked. A little disappointed, we started making our way toward the exit. Then, out of the corner of my eye, something unusual caught my attention. A small, unmarked door, tucked away behind one of the display walls. "Hey, Mark, want to check that out?" I asked, already curious. He glanced over, his expression unreadable but willing. "Why not? Could be a storage closet or something." We pushed the door open together, and immediately a rush of cold, musty air hit us. Inside, a narrow, dimly lit staircase spiraled down. I swallowed hard, shivering despite the mild weather outside. Mark gently took my hand, squeezing it. "You sure about this?" he asked quietly. I nodded, trying to mask the unease creeping into my chest. "Yeah, let's see where it leads." We descended carefully, the only sound our footsteps echoing against the concrete walls. At the bottom, a narrow hallway stretched before us, its walls made of rough cinder blocks, the flickering overhead fluorescent lights casting long, twitching shadows. No windows, no doors, just an endless corridor that made my skin crawl. Something was wrong here. My gut tightened with a cold dread I couldn't explain. Mark tugged on my sleeve. Maybe we should turn back. But curiosity rooted me to the spot. "Not yet. I want to see where this goes." My voice was quieter than I meant. What secret was hidden beneath this store? Why would there be a door leading down here at all? Mark didn't argue. Together we edged forward, the oppressive silence broken only by our cautious footsteps. Then we turned a corner and froze. Ahead, a group of men dressed all in black blocked the hallway, their faces concealed behind ski masks. They moved with a quiet menace, like predators aware of their territory. Mark and I instinctively ducked behind a pipe, but it was too late. Their heads snapped toward us, eyes narrowing. Panic flooded me. I locked eyes with Mark, silently begging him to do something, anything. But I also blamed myself. We had stumbled into something dangerous, something far beyond a forgotten storage room. One of the men stepped forward, his voice rough and cold. "What are you doing down here?" I opened my mouth to lie, say we got lost maybe, but it sounded ridiculous, even in my head. We said nothing. The man scanned us like prey, then sneered. "You're trespassing, can't let you go back." He motioned to a nearby man who grabbed us roughly by the arms. We didn't resist. There was no way out. As they dragged us down the corridor, my heart hammered. What did they want? Why were we here? The fear grew with every step, pressing down like a weight on my chest. After what felt like an endless march, we reached a massive steel door. It swung open, and suddenly we were in a cavernous room stacked with stolen goods, TVs, laptops, jewelry, all piled high like the spoils of some crime spree. In the center sat a man who clearly called the shots. Older, with a thinning hairline and a thick beard, his eyes cold and calculating as they locked onto us. "What brings you here?" he asked smoothly. Mark and I exchanged a glance, then fell silent, our minds racing with terror and disbelief. The man leaned back, steepling his fingers. "I don't think you're leaving anytime soon." Mark straightened up, trying to sound brave. "What do you mean? We didn't do anything wrong." The boss chuckled darkly. "Wrong place, wrong time. Now you're my prisoners," he snapped. His fingers. "Lock them up." Rough hands grabbed us again and dragged us away. my breath caught in my throat. We were trapped, stuck in a nightmare, prisoners in some criminal's hidden lair, all because we followed a curiosity that should have stayed buried. The door slammed behind us, and the darkness swallowed us whole. The room was cold and dank. The only light came from a small barred window set high up on the concrete wall, casting pale shadows that barely reached the floor. There was nothing, no furniture, no bed, just the hard, unforgiving floor beneath us. Mark and I huddled close in a corner, trying to hold on to whatever warmth we had left. My mind was spinning. It felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. But this was all too real. "What are we going to do?" Mark whispered, his voice, barely audible but trembling with fear. I shook my head, swallowing the lump in my throat. "I don't know, but we have to find a way out of here." We searched every inch of the room, running our fingers along the walls, looking for a loose brick, a hidden door, anything that might offer escape. But there was nothing. Just solid, cold concrete all around us. We sat in silence for what felt like hours, the quiet broken only by the distant hum of the building. Then, footsteps. Heavy, purposeful. The door creaked open and the boss stepped in, flanked by two of his henchmen. His presence filled the room with a chilling weight. He leaned in close, eyes sharp and menacing. "You're going to help us with our next job. And if you don't, well, let's just say you won't be leaving this place alive." His words sank like a stone in my stomach. My pulse quickened, heart pounding in my ears. Before we could even process what he said, his men grabbed us roughly and pulled us back into the dim hallway. We walked for what felt like miles, deeper into the bowels of the building. My legs burned, but I forced myself to keep moving. Finally, we reached another large metal door. Mark and I exchanged a desperate glance, both silently acknowledging the impossible situation we were in. The boss unlocked the door, revealing a room filled with weapons, guns, masks, tools that looked like they belonged in a criminal's worst nightmare. Suddenly, an idea sparked in my mind. I whispered in Mark's ear, "When we get a chance, grab a gun. Point it at the boss, tell him you'll shoot unless he lets us go." Mark's eyes widened. "Are you crazy? What if he calls our bluff?" "We have to take the risk," I said, voice steady despite the fear. "It's our only chance." He nodded, tightening his jaw. We waited, heartbeats loud in the suffocating silence, until the moment came. Mark moved fast. Gun in hand, he aimed directly at the boss. "Let us go or I'll shoot." For a heartbeat, the boss just stared, surprised. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed, a cold, cruel sound. Chaos exploded. Gunshots rang out, echoing off the concrete walls. We darted through the building, knocking over displays, dodging bullets. Every second felt like an eternity. Finally, we burst out into the sunlight, lungs burning, legs trembling, and we didn't stop running until the IKEA was a distant memory, behind us. Breathless and shaking, we called the police and told them everything. At first, they were skeptical, like they couldn't believe a crime ring was operating under a furniture store. But soon, a SWAT team arrived, storming the building. They found the boss, his men, and the mountain of stolen goods. In court, Mark and I stood as witnesses. Justice was served. The stolen treasures returned to their rightful owners. From that day forward, I was forever grateful that curiosity didn't cost me my life.